There is a diary sitting on my kitchen table. I have read it 3 times, and I would give anything to unread it. My husband passed away 7 months ago. Heart attack, sudden, he was 41. I thought I knew everything about him. I was wrong. Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Guilty Feed. Today's story comes from r/true off my chest. It has over 81,000 upvotes, and it is one of the most complicated, most heartbreaking stories I have ever read on this channel. There is no villain to rage at here. There is no easy verdict. There is just a woman sitting with a diary and a truth she cannot put back. Let's get into it. I am going to call her Nora. Nora is 38 years old. She lives in a house she and her husband bought together 9 years ago. A house she now lives in alone. She was with her husband. I am going to call him Michael, for 12 years. Married for 9 of them. She describes their marriage as, and I am quoting directly, not perfect, but real. We argued about dishes and money and whose turn it was to call the plumber. But I never doubted that we were building something together. Michael died 7 months ago. He was at the gym on a Tuesday morning. He collapsed on the treadmill. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. Nora says the first 3 months after his death were not something she has words for. She describes going through the motions, getting up, feeding the cat, going back to work. Existing, but not living. Her friends and family rallied around her. Her mother stayed with her for the first month. Michael's parents called every week. His sister brought food every Sunday. Everyone grieved him. Everyone missed him. And Nora, surrounded by all of that love, missed him the most. About 4 months after Michael died, Nora started the process of going through his things. His clothes, his books, his desk. She says she was not ready to let any of it go. But she also could not keep living in a museum. So she started slowly. 1 drawer at a time. At the back of his desk drawer, behind a stack of old bills and a broken watch, she found a notebook. Brown leather cover, worn at the corners. His initials pressed into the front. She says she sat with it in her lap for a long time, not opening it, just holding it. She says it felt like holding a piece of him. Something he had touched every day. Something private. She opened it, and the first entry was dated 3 years ago. And the first line read, "I do not know how much longer I can do this." Nora says she almost closed it right then. That first line scared her, because the Michael she knew was steady, calm, even-keeled, the kind of man who never seemed overwhelmed. But she kept reading. The diary covered 3 years, entry after entry. Some just a few lines, some pages long. And what emerged from those pages was a version of Michael she had never seen. A man who was exhausted. A man who felt trapped. A man who had been carrying something enormous, completely alone, for 3 years. In the early entries, he wrote about feeling disconnected from his life, from his job, from their house, from the routine. He wrote, "I get up, I go to work, I come home. And I feel like I am watching someone else live my life." Nora says she recognized some of what he described. Michael had gone through a quiet period about 3 years ago. She had asked if he was okay. He had said he was just tired. She had believed him. Then she turned to an entry dated 2 years and 8 months ago. And the diary changed. The entry was short, just 4 lines. It read, "Her name is Diane. She has a son. His name is Owen. Owen is mine. Owen is mine." Nora says she read those 4 lines 6 times, waiting for them to mean something different. They did not. Her husband had a child. a son, who was, Nora quickly calculated, 9 years old, which meant this child was conceived 3 years into their marriage. Nora kept reading. She says she could not stop. Even as every page broke something inside her, she could not stop. Over the following entries, the story came together. Michael had met Diane at a work conference 6 years ago. It was, in his own words, quote, a mistake that became a reality. Diane had fallen pregnant. She had decided to keep the baby. Michael had told Nora nothing. For 6 years, he had maintained a relationship with Diane and Owen, paying child support quietly, visiting when he told Nora he was traveling for work. The business trips. Always the business trips. Nora wrote on Reddit that reading this felt like being told her entire marriage was a stage set, that she was the only one who did not know she was in a play. But then, she turned to the entries from the last year of Michael's life and found something she was not prepared for. An entry from 14 months before his death. It read, I have made a decision. I am going to tell Nora. Not about Owen, not yet, maybe not ever. But I am going to tell her that I need to leave. I have spoken to a solicitor. I have a date in mind. After Christmas, before her birthday. I do not want to ruin either. After Christmas, before her birthday. Nora says she looked at the calendar, counted the months. Michael died in February. Her birthday is in March. He had been planning to leave her. In the exact window he wrote about in that diary, he never got the chance because he died first. Nora says she sat on the floor of Michael's study for 4 hours. She did not cry. She did not move. She just sat with the diary in her lap and 9 years of marriage rearranging itself in her mind. Every memory, every holiday, every Sunday morning, every I love you. All of it was now filtered through what she had just read. She says the cruelest thing is not the affair. It is not even the child. It is the planning. Because the affair could be, she hates herself for even thinking this, but the affair could be a moment of weakness, a mistake, something that spiraled, but planning to leave her, choosing a date, wanting to wait until after Christmas so he did not ruin the holiday. That was not weakness. That was a man who had decided, who had looked at their life together and chosen something else. And she would never have known. If he had lived, he would have sat her down in January or February and told her it was over. And she would have spent the rest of her life thinking it came out of nowhere. But instead, he died. And she buried him and grieved him and defended his memory to anyone who said a bad word about him, while his diary sat in a drawer, waiting. Nora faced a choice after reading the diary. She could tell no one, put the diary back in the drawer, grieve the man everyone thought he was, and carry this alone. Or she could reach out to Diane, to Owen, to Michael's family, and blow apart every version of him that everyone was holding on to. She says she spent 2 weeks paralyzed by this choice, going to work, coming home, staring at the diary. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She reached out to Diane, not to confront her, not in anger, but because, Nora writes, she needed to know if Owen was real, if there was a 9-year-old boy somewhere who had just lost his father and did not know that his father's wife existed. Diane responded within a day. She knew about Nora. She had always known about Nora. Michael had told Diane from the beginning that he was married and had promised for 6 years that he was going to leave. Diane had been waiting for 6 years. Owen had grown up knowing his father had another family, knowing his father would come and go, knowing he was, in some way, The secret. Nora says she wept for Owen, a 9-year-old boy who had done nothing wrong, who had grown up in the shadow of a secret, who had just lost the only father he ever had. And then she posted on Reddit. She wrote, "I found my late husband's diary. I know I should not have read it, but I could not stop. And now I do not know how to grieve him, because the man in that diary is not the man I thought I married. And I do not know which one was real." 81,000 upvotes. And the comments, I have never seen a comment section like this one, because there is almost no anger, just grief. From strangers, for a woman they have never met. Top comment, 28,000 upvotes from you/griefcounselor_anon. What Nora is experiencing has a name. It is called complicated grief. And it is one of the hardest forms of loss there is. Because she cannot just grieve Michael. She has to grieve 3 versions of him at once. The husband she thought she had. The man who was actually living a double life. And the man who was planning to leave her. 3 deaths, 1 funeral. Nora, please find a grief counselor who specializes in betrayal trauma. You are carrying more than any one person should carry alone. 3 deaths, 1 funeral. I had to stop and sit with that for a moment, because it is the most accurate thing I have ever read. Second comment, from you/also betrayed, 19,000 upvotes. The detail about Owen breaks my heart completely. A 9-year-old boy who grew up watching his father come and go, who was told over and over that soon things would change. Soon Dad would be there properly. And now that boy will never get that. Not because his father chose to stay with Nora, but because his father died before he could choose anything. Nora reaching out to Diane was the bravest thing she could have done. Because Owen deserved to know that someone acknowledged him. I keep thinking about Owen too. A child in all of this who had absolutely no say. Who inherited a situation entirely created by adults and is now 9 years old without a father. Third comment, from you/honestly angry, 14,000 upvotes. I am going to say something that might be unpopular. I understand why everyone is being gentle here. I understand Michael is gone and cannot defend himself. But can we talk about what he actually did? He had an affair. He fathered a child. He hid that child for 6 years. He was planning to leave his wife without ever telling her the real reason. And he let Nora grieve him as the man she thought he was. He does not get to be a saint because he died. His death is a tragedy. What he did was a choice. I think this comment says something important, and I also understand why it is hard to read. Because Michael is gone. And being angry at someone you cannot confront is one of the most isolating feelings in the world. And then this comment, from you/quietobserver_22, just 44 words. But I have read it more than anything else in this thread. Nora asked which version of Michael was real. I think they were both real. The man who loved her was real. The man who betrayed her was also real. People are not one thing. And grief does not require you to choose. You are allowed to love him and be furious at him. At the same time, for the rest of your life, you are allowed to love him and be furious at him. At the same time, for the rest of your life. All right, here is where I land on this. There is no verdict here, and I mean that. This is the first story on this channel where I genuinely cannot give you a NTA or a YTA. Because Nora is not the asshole. She has done nothing wrong. Reading a diary that was left in her own home is not a crime. And Michael cannot be judged. Not because he does not deserve to be, but because he is gone. And judging the dead does nothing for the living. What I want to talk about instead is Nora's question. She asked which version of Michael was real. And I have been thinking about that question for days. I think the answer is both. The man who built a life with her was real. The Sunday mornings were real. The arguments about dishes were real. Whatever love existed between them, that was real. And the man who kept a secret for 6 years was also real. The planning, the date he had chosen, the solicitor. That was real too. People are not one thing. They are not simply good or simply bad. They are both. Sometimes at the exact same time. And I think the hardest part of what Nora is facing is that she has to learn to hold both of those truths in the same hands at the same time. She is allowed to grieve him. She is allowed to be furious at him. She is allowed to love him. She is allowed to feel betrayed by him. All of it. All at once, for as long as she needs. And the diary, I think she should decide what to do with it. Not anyone else. Not Reddit. Not Michael's family. Her house, her husband, her truth, her decision. Nora, I hope you find your way through this. I genuinely do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. There is no NTA or YTA today. Just tell me, what would you do with the diary? Would you tell Michael's family? Would you keep it? Would you burn it? I want to know. I read every single comment. Before I go, this one was heavy. I know. Thank you for staying with it. If Nora ever updates this post, and I hope she does, I will cover it immediately. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss it. If you are new to Reddit Guilty Feed, welcome. Not every story we cover is this heavy, but every story is real, and every story matters. We post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our first 2 videos are right here. They are different in tone, a little more fire, a little less heartbreak. You might need that after this one. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.